I'm fair game. Please stay away from my family.
Yeah, a confrontation between two hopefuls for Georgia governor caught on camera. Well, this weekend, Democrat Keisha Lance called out her opponent, Republican Rick Jackson, for using her family in negative campaign ads. Atlanta News First political reporter Doug Reardon is live outside the Atlanta Hilton on Cortlandt Street. And Doug, this is an intensifying debate that is in already a heated race.
Yeah, it sure is, Tracy, and an expensive one to boot. Rick Jackson, the Republican nominee for governor, has already spent $87 million on ads, and it was apparently over one of those ads that confrontation sparked here outside of the Hilton on Friday. Jackson and Keisha Lance, the Democratic nominee for governor, were both attending the same conference, and when they met by happenstance outside of the venue, that's when things got interesting.
You're saying things about my husband that aren't true.
Outside the National Business League conference in Atlanta on Friday, attended by both Republican nominee Rick Jackson and Democratic nominee Keisha Lance, cell phones capture a call out.
I'm fair game. Please stay away from my family.
I hear you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like your outfits.
Bottoms is referring to a negative campaign ad Jackson is now running, accusing her of misusing taxpayer money to buy her husband a flight to the 2018 Super Bowl when Bottoms was serving as Atlanta mayor.
Taxpayers covered the cost of a first-class plane ticket for Mayor Bottoms' husband to fly to the Super Bowl.
Bottoms telling Jackson in the video she's fair game, but to, quote, stay away from her family. One day later at a campaign rally in Beaufort, Jackson appeared not to heed her request.
When she took office, Atlanta taxpayers were billed thousands of dollars for a first-class ticket for my opponent's husband to attend the Super Bowl. My opponent made it clear yesterday, she does not want Georgians to hear about any of this.
The confrontation is intensifying an already heated race. Earlier this month, Jackson poured $87 million of his own money into TV ads, some of them attacking his opponent.
The next governor of the great state of Georgia, Keisha Lance.
At her own campaign stop 2 weeks ago, Bottoms addressed the flight purchase.
I was the one that caught that error on the credit card. I caught it within 10 days of returning from the Super Bowl. I wrote a check, reimbursed the city of Atlanta when I realized the wrong credit card had been used. So the fact that there is another part of this story that he refuses to tell speaks to his character.
And we checked with our political experts. While there are some Georgia laws around using minors and using some forms of artificial intelligence in campaign ads, there is really nothing that speaks to this exact situation that would, for all intents and purposes, make it illegal. 71 days until that November midterm, which of course includes an election for Georgia governor. In downtown Atlanta, Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.